Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Urban Spokesman. My name is Swifty Sanders, giving micromobility users the news they need to stay up to speed on micromobility and urban infrastructure in New York City. So today I want to talk about the state of transportation in New York City and the state of transportation advocacy and urbanism in New York City. Right now, New York City is struggling. Yes, that's right. Struggling with their urbanism here in New York City, the biggest city, the most urbanist city in North and South America. So in the Western Hemisphere, what the New York DOT is thinking is that they want, because they've gotten so much criticism over the years for the things that they have done correctly, I might add. They've added bus lanes and bike lanes and all that, especially during Bloomberg's time as mayor. And so back then, there wasn't a big urbanist community like there is today. And so basically, New York City's Department of Transportation, what they've resorted to doing is trying to hide themselves. They've been trying to hide from the community boards. They've been trying to do things behind the community board's back. They don't communicate the plans to the public. So to us, the urbanists who are interested in these things, they don't communicate because they don't want to hear negative feedback or any feedback at all. They just want to be able to do whatever. Which, look, we are not transportation planners, so I understand that urge, that impulse, and I, on some level, I sort of agree with it, given that the scale of the changes is only modifying existing streets and not bulldozing homes as they were doing in the 1950s and 60s and before that. So basically what I would say is that the New York City DOT expects the people within a community to come up with their own plans within a community board for how to make streets safer. And then so the New York DOT expects the citizens within a community board to come up with their own plans for how they think a street should become safer for the citizens within the community board. And then what they will do is piggyback on that and then implement something that's, fully fleshed out and fully engineered. The problem with this is that this can work well in some of the richer, whiter communities. However, this plan doesn't work for the Black community, the African American community, the working class community, because what happens is, even though you have most of the people in a city council community board district in New York City who walk and take public transit overwhelmingly, even among the people who actually own cars, they overwhelmingly take public transportation and walk. What you have is people who will not show up to New York City DOT meetings, New York City community board meetings, because they're working class. They don't have time. And there's already so many other things on their radar in terms of what they need, that things like transportation are so low on the list of items to advocate for. And so I think also people who are not rich, donating their time for free, it's not fair to the working class people in those communities to collecting signatures and going to community board meetings one after the next, whereas a lot of people who do have the financial resources and are well off or are retired or are, winding down their career. They have a lot of extra free time to sit in all these meetings all day, all night. And meanwhile, they're cosplaying as the community. Meanwhile, the real community is working, has families, has other priorities they have to deal with. And so I think it's unfair for DOT to expect the same level of community engagement as they would expect in like a richer, wider neighborhood. And so the reason I bring this up is because I don't think you're going to have the same, I just don't think you're going to have the same strategy is going to work for every community. And this is why, and the way DOT does things now, instead of doing things as a whole system, like systematically building the bus lane infrastructure, the bike lane infrastructure across the city, systematically the same, keeping things in this neighborhood the same as this neighborhood, and you can generally expect that if it gets built in one neighborhood, it will absolutely be added to the next neighborhood. The DOT has resorted to this weird patchwork of community street design, which has not served New York well, and I think is a problem. Which is why in one community you see one thing, and the next community you don't have anything. And what ends up happening is Black people in minority communities, Latino communities, Asian communities, get left out. We get left out of the equation. And I think that just, that really isn't fair to us, for us to be left out of the equation, for us to get left out of protective, safe bike lane infrastructure, protected bike lanes, bus lane infrastructure, so we have on-time buses in a lot of these outer areas that feed the train system so people can get to work. People who live in working class communities can get to work efficiently. I think that the DOT needs to be more realistic about the expectations, and they need to be building things like the 3rd Avenue redesign. Should have went all the way up 3rd Avenue and all the way down 3rd Avenue. It shouldn't have been just in one little spot of 3rd Avenue, and then you still have on the north side or the south side of 3rd Avenue, you still have nothing. And that just isn't fair, and that's just not, in my opinion, a good way to govern for a city. Like, everybody in the city should expect the same level of street infrastructure, including the daylighting, including the bus lanes and the bike lanes. They should expect that they are going to get all of these things, the full suite of safety treatment in their neighborhood. I live in Harlem, 125th and Lenox, and I should expect to get the same amount of fair treatment, the same amount of bike lanes and bus lanes as they have in the Upper West Side or Chelsea or Nomad, whatever. I should get that everywhere. I shouldn't just, or Flatiron. Flatiron has the bike lane on 5th Avenue below like 26th Street, but above 26th Street, there's nothing. Nope. The same level of service needs to exist everywhere. It needs to be systematic. And this is the problem with some of what MTA is doing. And this is why people are complaining. MTA. This is why people complain about the New York DOT just doing these things. They put City Bike in Harlem without upgrading the bike lane infrastructure. New York DOT allowed City Bike to come to Harlem. It's all over Harlem. Everyone uses it. And they say they don't have community support for bike lane infrastructure. Buses in Harlem. Oh my God, the buses are always full. They're so slow, 4 miles an hour or something crazy like that. But then a putting a bus lane in Harlem or the Bronx is like the third rail. All right, so let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think about the New York DOT kind of hiding behind, kind of sneaking around and behind everybody's backs and not being forthcoming with the community about their plans for creating safe transportation, street infrastructure in New York City in an open and honest way. Look, no matter what you do, people are going to complain. You got to accept that. But you also got to realize the people who are coming to these meetings are not the majority of New York. The majority of the New York is the New York that rides the city bike and takes the train, right? Walks and takes the train. That's the majority of New York. No matter where you go in New York City, except for maybe Staten Island and the edges of Queens and Brooklyn and Bronx, that's what people are doing. All right. Have a great evening and let's make it a great day.